Hello, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. The cameras in Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm sorry, family. These are a big part of Fnaf and Fnaf fan games. Fnaf would not be Fnaf without them. The entire concept of Fnaf is defending yourself from animatronics that you monitor using your cameras in your office. So I want to talk about them, even if on the surface they are not the most exciting topic. I mean, do you really want me to talk about YouTube drama or watch me react to Sunny V2? Yeah, I don't think we want that. I will give some examples of games that use these in a good way and games that use cameras in a bad way, and generally talk and explain how to make good use of the cameras, whether you are making a FNAF fan game or you're just curious. Enjoy and like and subscribe. Cameras are really important to FNAF. In games without them, there is usually something missing. Fnaf 4 for example, it's a good game, fun gameplay where you manage these little demons that come from you on all four sides so you don't die. However, one of the main complaints was the lack of cameras. You just run around 24/7, which can lead to repetitive gameplay that gets boring. Cameras could add sort of a break that leads to more varied gameplay. Like let's say you're doing good, all four animatronics are checked on, and pretty far away, and you had a fifth in your cameras. And let's say you could do some other stuff in your cameras, such as a way to speed up your night, kinda like the tape in Candy's Free. This would make it so that if you do good with the Nightmare animatronics, you could spend a lot of time on the fifth one in the cameras in order to make sure they don't get you, or played a little more risky by also spending time to make the night go by faster. Of course, this is not perfect, and it's far from a fully designed mechanic. I'm just giving a quick example I made. This version would let the player strategize, have the player make more decisions other than just walking back and forth. I know what you're thinking, you don't need cameras to achieve this, and yet, you don't. However, the cameras could be used to have a more interesting mechanic than for example just looking at the fifth animatronic. You could have a mechanic where you need to locate it, see where it hides in a dark camera, the better the player the quicker to find them. Or have it so that you need to shut the appropriate door, kinda like the Mr. Hugs game that Toy Freddy is terrible at. These are basic examples, but there are many more mechanics you could implement to this character, maybe even something with resource management. I say this a lot, but I am a huge fan of the power meter. Basically, I like that the more you use, the safer you are, but you need to conserve it. It allows the player to strategize by letting them use a lot of power to be safe, or conserve it for later, but have a higher risk of losing. I feel like FNAF games are structured in a way where you have the office stage and the camera stage. In FNAF 1 you check the lights and close doors in the office stage, but in the camera stage you check the animatronics and deal with threats on the cameras. Sprinkled in between, of course, is managing your resources and strategy. What I feel makes a good camera stage is if you have something to do and can make decisions. The music box is a bad example of this, because all you do is just click one button on one camera. I think my example would make the FNAF 4 gameplay better, but of course, it would not make sense for a kid to have these cameras in their room. No, not these, I mean cams that they would check. I feel like the camera allows for much more interesting gameplay, where the player has to manage their resources and they are allowed to strategize more, making the gameplay deeper and more complex, and giving it more variation. My FNAF 4 example isn't the best, it's basic, but that's the beauty of cameras, there is a ton you can do with them. Another reason I love the cameras is that they let the player track the animatronic, it lets them see their enemy, and it's creepy. Seeing Chica slowly creeping closer to your office is scary, knowing that she's closer and closer to killing you. It also gives a good atmosphere, especially if the cameras make a lot of noise and are low quality. It sets off a creepy vintage atmosphere, which I really like and I think is really creepy, especially in the first FNAF game. Now let's move on to examples of games that use the cameras right. I will talk about what makes the usage of the cameras in these games so good. Later, we will talk about the bad examples. First up, we have FNAF 3. Now, a lot of people don't like FNAF 3, and to that I have to say, okay, cool. I really like the camera utilization in this game. You need to locate Springtrap, close events to lure him away, while also reacting to the phantoms so they don't mess up your night. What makes this especially interesting is that Springtrap can do you dirty. He can clone himself and have a bunch of false Springtraps, leading to confusion, because it's hard to tell which one is the real Springtrap. I like the cameras here because you have your defense systems, that being the audio and camera, and occasionally they break. So you have to fix them, letting the Springtrap slip by. Also, there is an element of skill, you need to quickly react to the phantoms or else you need to waste even more time. You have to manage the amount of audio lures you have left and strategize on when the best time to repair the audio system is. Locating Springtrap also can be difficult at times. He blends in really well with the environment. What I really like here is that the game utilizes all of the cameras. Springtrap moves a lot. One complaint, however, is that you can keep Springtrap in one location, and I have to agree. Although Fnaf 3 is really good, it still has some gameplay problems. What I like here is that you use all of the cameras. There's an element of skill, resource management, and strategy. Like I said before with the office and the camera stages, I feel like Fnaf 3 does the camera stage really well. You strategize and defend yourself. I do think that the game would benefit from at least one more lethal animatronic, because you can just trap Springtrap in one place. But I still really like the camera utilization here. Bravo. One Night at Flumpty's 2. I love this game. The creator? Not so much. But hey, that's not the topic of this video. There's characters that go into your office. You need to turn the lights off. If they see you, this meter goes up. If it's maxed, you die. Also, there's an owl that acts like Foxy, but can go through one of these two vents. Also, there's this guy, but he's a pushover. What I like about the cameras in this game is that you have to monitor all of the characters. You need to see when Blam, Eyesore, and Gronkfuss are gonna attack. And that includes memorizing their movement pattern and actively memorizing where they are, because they disappear right before they get in, meaning that if you do not pay attention, they get in and quickly fill up your exposure meter. I really like this. Like I said before, I really like when you have to monitor your threats. It makes it so you have to use more of the cameras, and makes you pay attention, not just click one button like in Fnaf 2. There is also Gronkfuss. You need to watch his timer in order to see when he attacks. What is interesting is that you need to let your cameras charge, and they drain quickly. This makes the player have to do what they need to do very quickly, which can lead to mistakes. Also, while you let your cameras charge, something can very quickly sneak up on you. You can't react to most of them. They immediately make your meter go up. Except Flumpty, but that's because he is an egg that can transcend time and space. He can attack you from any camera, which is why you have to react to him. He gives you some time to quickly turn off the lights. There is also the owl. You have to pay attention to it, and then see which vent it goes through. Then shut that vent. What I like about the cameras here is that you utilize many of them. There is one thing. This game does not have a lot of strategy. There is a little with the power meter, but not a lot. However, I like that you have to make use of your cameras really well, because you get a really short amount of time to use them, and even if there isn't a lot of strategy, I feel like the very quick and chaotic gameplay makes the game interesting. It's very fast paced, you constantly have something to do. And it's not like Fnaf 2 where you only have to wind the box. No, you actively have to pay attention to where the characters are and determine when the appropriate time to shut off the lights is. Because with them off, your cameras don't charge. Even if there is not a lot of strategy, I feel like the overwhelming amount of things you need to check paired up with the limited amount of time leads to many mistakes being made, especially if you're playing for the first time. So the gameplay is still interesting. Also, the art on the cameras is really nice. I mean, look at it. Okay, now let's talk about the negatives. Fnaf 2. Yeah, Fnaf 2. Fnaf 2 has many gameplay problems. One of them being the cameras. What I liked about Flumpty's 2 and Fnaf 3 was that you had a reason to look at different cameras. You had to keep track and find Springtrap, and you had to look at the different characters in Flumpty's 2. There was utilization of the cameras. I mean, why have them if you aren't gonna use them? And that's where Fnaf 2 comes in. You check the music box camera. You wind the box. What about all of these? Nah, we don't need them. In fact, it becomes almost impossible in the later nights. I don't like this because it's lazy. There's no real mechanic other than press this button. It's a huge waste of potential. You have a camera flashlight so you can better see the room. But what's the point if it doesn't give you any sort of advantage? There's no mechanic that uses this. I think it would have been much better if there was a mechanic that would encourage the player to check every camera from time to time. And something more creative than just holding a button down, which makes it boring. Well, another game that uses the cameras in a bad way is Five Nights at Candy's 2. The problem. In other FNAF games you have the office and camera segments, right? Well, Candy's 2 doesn't. In the office you can flash your light. This is useless. Wanna know what the strategy to win is? Randomly use the phones, then turn them off. So that's these three animatronics dealt with. Sometimes go to another camera, and if you hear Chester, just go there and see which camera he's on. There's no resource management, just make sure to turn the phones off, and even if you don't, you can still recover. This game uses cameras in a bad way because, well, you don't manage resources, there's no strategy, you just click these silly little buttons. Also, there is no reason to put them down. This makes the cameras worse because, well, the point of the cameras is that they make you vulnerable. Something might sneak in while you check them, but here, there is a strategy that works 100% of the time in the cameras, leading to terrible gameplay. You don't even need to check the different cameras. Even for Chester, you can guess which one he is in because of the stereo sound. So, pretty boring video subject. I know. Pretty late upload. I know. I'm sorry. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe. These past few weeks have been a little bit tough for me. That's why there hasn't been any uploads. Also, lack of motivation. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to do better. This was Gamespeaking, and goodbye.